All right. Welcome to the Freakcast. Tonight, our guest is special guest is going to be Tracey Murtha. You don't want to miss this. And before we get started, we'll give a few minutes for people to join in. If you're listening in, thanks for joining in as well. But as always, we're going to start out with our theme song, Stay True. So here we go. Thanks for joining in.
There's no air in this room. I'm somewhere, lost my shoes. In this mind, you will see who you're really gonna be. Hollowed out, filled with sin. Keeping watch, I don't pretend. Feelings thrown into the ground. Pick it up and spin around. Stay true, I don't wanna be in this room. Stay true, I don't wanna be in this room. There's no air
All right.
in this room.
Thank you for joining into the Freakcast. We are so glad that you have come in tonight. If you're watching us live, welcome. My name is Stephen Carroll, and I am what they call the head freak, I guess, because I started the Freakcast. But this is all about stories and opportunities. That was our theme song by Kids in the Days, and you can follow him on Instagram. It's a good follow. But I love the song, as I tell you each week, because it is all about pursuing your passion, pursuing your dreams, pursuing what it is that you've been placed on this earth for, what God has placed you here for, your purpose, and overcoming obstacles. And the Freakcast is all about that. It's about everyday, common people that have faced extraordinary challenges in their life. And every challenge is different, and every situation is different. But every situation and every circumstance and everything that we face creates a story. And as always, I like to share this theme verse. It's Revelation 12:11. It says, "They overcame the enemy by the power of the blood and the word of their testimony." It's our stories that make such a difference. And today I've been Ubering a lot, and so I've started Ubering, and I love the opportunity that gives and it affords me, because I get to sit in the car with people, and usually I get to hear stories all day long, and situations and circumstances, and people just will share many times, and I love it. And that's what this is all about. Hey, listen, if you would like to sponsor the Freakcast, we'd love to have you as a sponsor. We're trying to build this a little bit and give us the opportunity so we can have a chance to support other people that are facing challenges. And so you can do that by emailing me at stephenfightlikeafreak.com. And I'd encourage you to do that as well. One thing that we'll be talking about in a few weeks are stem cell anniversary trips. And I'm going to be hitting that really hard. Probably take a whole episode, bring Lacey back on, maybe Clay Drake back on. And it's a way that we are going to be able to, people that have stem cell transplants, when you have that, you're not sure what the next year is going to look like. And so we're going to go and say, hey, a year from now, we'd like to send you on a trip and talk to them about where they'd like to go, set a dream out there, because the mind is a powerful thing. And when we have something that we're looking toward and believing for, we can see great things happen. So anyway, tonight on the Freakcast, super excited to have our guest. Our guest is Tracey Murtha, and Tracey is just an incredible lady, and we're going to spend some time with her. So won't delay any longer. Let's go ahead and bring her in so you can meet her, and we could start talking and sharing her story, because it's incredible. Hey, Tracey.
Hey, Stephen. Thank you so much. I'm so honored that you would want to speak with me. So,
Oh, shoot. Are you kidding me? The honor is all mine.
I think it's great what you're doing. I love it. I've thought about, like, somebody needs to do that. I know so many fantastic people in the world that have wonderful stories. And so, anyway, there's power there. So
there is. I would love to have. Yeah, I would love. Let's talk about that down the road because I would love to bring
Yeah.
them on. I think I told you earlier, and like I was sharing just a few minutes ago, and we talked about this as well, but everybody has a story, and that story is so powerful. And just to give them the opportunity, because that's what I want this to be, is just an opportunity for people to have a format that they can come and share their story, and then they can take that, whether it's through the Spotify or iTunes link or the
Hmm.
video, and they can share it with other people, and I just think that it makes a difference. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm telling you, you're someone, and your family and you guys are someone that um, that blessed me and helped me, which we'll get to in a second, through my journey battling multiple myeloma, and y'all's story um, and was just something that was powerful in my life. So thank you for being willing to share it with us and
Thank
just
you.
being who you are. So
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah. Well, hey, so we were talking earlier, just kind of just to kind of recap for us, you and I, we really haven't, connected a whole lot over the years, but Greg, Greg, your late husband,
Yes.
and I met, I guess, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, but I don't know,
Yeah.
what years were y'all in Little Rock? Because I met him like between 91 and 98
Yeah.
and did some
We
stuff with him. He was
we
really
were
involved in that reconciliation thing.
yes, we were in Little Rock from let's see, 97 or I think we were there 97, 98, and then we moved to Dallas in 99. So we were there really about 2 years because
Okay.
we were there about 2 years. Now Greg's from Little Rock, and so the
Yeah.
racial reconciliation rally was huge.
That was a mess, right? So, yeah, for people that don't know, obviously, it was something that a group of churches came together, and I mean, they had Evander Holyfield there, I think, and they had
Mhm.
was DC Talk was there,
DC
and
Talk
there
was
was
there. Yeah.
Christian
CC
bands were there.
Winans, Evie Hill, who's he's
Oh,
a
yeah,
deceased pastor from Watts in Los Angeles.
yeah,
Evander Holyfield. Yeah, we got to have breakfast with him and
really,
look at his ear.
wow.
And he really does have a little piece of his ear missing.
Poor Tyson bit his ear off. That's hilarious.
Yes.
That's funny. Yeah, we got to that was toward the end of my tenure when I was at a church there in Little Rock as a student pastor, and then
Yeah.
we're moved into more of a we moved into kind of a inner city type role a little bit, and got connected with those guys, and it was cool. Greg, I always, he's just always, going, obviously,
Yes, he
we can talk
was.
about that,
Well,
but
he had a
he was
dream
really
to
crazy.
do that rally. I mean, it was the what was it, the 40th or 30th or some anniversary of the Central High, the
That's right. That's right.
that's the the reason he wanted to do it, because he said that the national media, Clinton was president at the time, and he knew that there would be national media all over Little Rock, covering that event. And he wanted to have someone lifting up that, Jesus is the answer to the sin of racism as well as every other sin. And
Yeah.
so he knew, and it got coverage on CNN and lots of
That's
different
crazy.
outlets. And it was just bringing, people together to
Yeah.
say Jesus is the answer to this sin as well as every other sin, and having fun and experiencing joy.
Yeah, it was a blast. I'll never forget. I've got a picture. I got a picture of my boys when they were younger, but we were, at the concert. Of course, DC Talk is that whole band. I mean, the whole Jesus Freak and that
Mm-hmm.
freak shirt
Yeah.
and the whole Fight Like a Freak. Everything
Yeah.
came out of this shirt that I'm wearing. The
That's
freak shirt. So
yes,
that was a big deal to me.
Yes.
Well, so then you guys moved to Dallas, and y'all were instrumental I think, and tell me about that. I don't want to speak as far as when y'all came to Dallas and everything.
We came to Dallas in 1999. Um, and Greg went to work with Bob Buford, who had started an organization. He had written a book called Halftime, and so many people read the book, and there were lots of men and women reading the book who resonated with it greatly, and they did not know how to find Bob. And
Yeah.
so Greg basically just started an organization that it was called Halftime to go along with the book. And just working with people, men and women, high capacity, who love Jesus and generous and wanted to make a difference in the world and give back their time, talent, and treasure. So anyway, the organization's still going on today.
And that's something.
So it's changed over the years, and so Bob is now with Jesus. But anyway, that's what brought us to Dallas, and then
Right.
we kind of helped start a church here, and anyway, and then we moved. Greg stayed with Halftime, and we moved back to Nashville during part of that. He missed the countryside, I
Yeah.
guess so. But and then we moved back to Dallas again. So in 2013. So we've had 2 stints in Dallas. So
Right.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
yes.
Well, I have your story, as I said earlier, um, and just everything that you guys have experienced, over the past, and you'll have to put timelines together because I can't even speak to them. But for you guys that are listening or watching, Greg, um, I can't remember how it all went down, but for whatever reason, I saw and got connected and realized what's going on, and I actually called him several times and just had some of the greatest conversations. I don't know if we talked
Mhm.
about that, but it was during the season. But Greg was diagnosed with colon cancer, and
Mhm.
and I'm gonna kind of let you kind of share the timeline and just share the story because
Yeah,
I've read the book they wrote, but
right,
obviously it's not anything compared to what we can get from hearing it from your perspective. So I'm
right.
just so excited and as tough as I know it is, many times, but your story is so powerful, Tracy, and so I'm
Oh,
looking forward to hearing you share it.
yes. Well, yes, Greg was he was diagnosed with cancer in January of 2012, and he went for, well, it was a colonoscopy because he was having issues, and um his mom had passed away from colon cancer um in 2007. So at that point, all the siblings were having colonoscopies, but Greg was too young. And, he said, Tracy, should I have a colonoscopy? And I was like, I don't know. You should do it if you feel like you should do it.
Right.
And the insurance wouldn't cover it. And so, you go back and you think, well, what if he had had the colonoscopy in, 2008? Would they have caught it? Would it have been a polyp? And,
Yeah.
but, I mean, I, fast forward, and he was running, having some issues. They were like, you need to get a colonoscopy. And, he was diagnosed with cancer and underwent surgery pretty quickly. And we found a surgeon, underwent surgery, and then, and I mean, did fantastic. I mean, they told him he would be in the hospital for 8 days. He was out in like 2 or 3 days, and we went to a fundraiser. Actually, it was a fundraiser for colon cancer. So,
Really?
like, he left the hospital that day, and I drove us downtown. It was at the Country Music Hall of Fame, I believe. But anyway, and his surgeon was there, or not his surgeon, but his oncologist was there. And I think his surgeon was there too. And so anyway, they just couldn't believe that, Greg was there. So he was in great shape, did great, but it was diagnosed stage 3. We didn't know for a little while, but they said you need to start, and it was 3B, which means it was like outside the colon wall, but it had not really attached to anything.
Right.
But it had gone outside the colon wall. So,
Well,
so
and to your point about Greg too, I mean, he was one of those guys that you weren't going to slow him down. I
no,
mean, you could
oh,
try, and so
no,
he's not. Yeah, hospital is not where he wants. That's not. If there's something else that he can do, then he's going to get out of the hospital and go do what he's got to do.
That's right. And so, he did start chemotherapy right away after that. And, and he will say, he says a lot that, cancer changed him. And he said cancer made him a better man. He was always a good man. I always argued with him about that because he always made himself out to be like this terrible person. And then he got cancer and God changed it. But he was a really good man before cancer. So it did slow him down. And I do think, it slowed him down. And he did start listening to the Holy Spirit. And he really did see sick people and had a heart for sick people. And obviously, when you're, as you know this very well, when you're in chemotherapy, when you're in these hospitals, I mean, it is fertile ground for deep conversation with people and, talking about your faith. And, it's the nitty gritty. My sister-in-law was diagnosed with cancer about a year, let's see, in 2015. Anyway, I can't remember the year, but anyway, she, I came home and told Greg that she had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and he said, "This is where the rubber meets the road, Tracey. It's where you're faced with what you feel about eternity, or what do you believe about eternity?" And it's the truth,
Yeah,
and
that's what,
so,
when I talked to him, I remember that he said that multiple times. This is where and he says that in his book too, right? It was in his book as well, which we can talk about in a second. But I think that to that point, that was the one thing that, just as he was going through this, and as you guys were going through this, I mean, he was gonna, talk about it, and
right.
he just wasn't gonna keep him quiet about it.
No, it was like, for him, it was huge platform. I mean, he was in the hospitals talking to people about Jesus, and, just loving on people, and, just meeting them where they were. And even his oncologist, I mean, he had a heart for his oncologist, who was Jewish, and he just had a heart for his oncologist, coming to know Jesus as the Son of God. That didn't happen, at least, that we know of. But he just loved on his oncologist, and his oncologist truly, loved Greg, because he, he ministered to everybody. He would always ask them, "How can I serve you?" And crazy. But and it didn't slow him down, it just gave him more to do, more to talk about, more of a platform. He, Facebook was sort of, well, it wasn't new, but I don't guess he was really using it. He first started on Caring Bridge, and then he moved to Facebook and really started blogging on Facebook. So
his blogs were I mean, of course, I guess the blogs are what eventually became the book, but
Right.
just reading those. And you said something a while ago. I think, you talked about one thing that I've experienced is I've made the statement that I'm thankful for who I was becoming before the diagnosis of cancer, because it was foundational to how we carry out, whatever it is that we're facing in life.
Right.
And I wrote that down, when you said that about, he always say cancer changed him. I think,
Yeah.
And how we view things, and the idea of sick people, it's like you just begin to change.
Yeah.
I just, for the, I mean, and, and everybody's different, and
Yeah.
everybody responds differently, like we were talking about earlier. But I believe what you said about how he saw it and how it can be, and because that's a choice, that we make, and so
Hmm.
he definitely made that choice. I mean,
Yeah.
um,
Oh, yeah.
you all did.
For sure. It kind of intensified just living with purpose. Just and living out like what God placed you on the earth to do. I mean, obviously he's very talented at um I mean, he had great people skills, and he connected with people,
Right.
connected people together, and it just he had more to talk about, a lot more to talk about.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
in that journey, so it didn't slow him down any. I mean, we took trips, and we had to move back to Dallas during in 2013, and
That's
so
when y'all came to Texas. Was it Texas Oncology y'all came to, wasn't it?
yes, so we were at Vanderbilt, and then we went to Texas Oncology, and
And y'all came here for different treatments, or because it was, I
no,
mean,
Greg came for work actually. So
oh, okay.
he left halftime in 2013 and went to work with I Donate, which was a startup technology business, which is still here in Dallas. But it's a platform to where people can donate anything of value to the charity of their choice, and and they will liquidate it. So I Donate liquidates it, and then the money goes to the charity. So
Oh,
you could,
wow. That's
yeah, so
awesome.
you could donate like your iPhone, or I mean, people donate like airplanes. Somebody donated like a crop of corn or something. I mean, or wheat. I mean, it's crazy. But anything
Yeah.
that has value, can be donated to a charity.
Wow.
So
So it's I donate.
yeah, it's called I Donate. And so he moved here. We moved back for I Donate. And Jackson was in middle school. He started middle school. So it was tough kind of transition for him. But
Yeah.
because he had lived in Dallas when he was a toddler. So he didn't really remember it.
And
But
where's the
yes,
cancer at in this whole situation though while y'all are moving? So I mean, you're just kind of starting the journey, or you had the surgery in Tennessee.
yeah, we had surgery. He started out in Tennessee, had the surgery, all the chemo, and then, that fall they kind of said, okay, the cancer's gone, but it
Oh,
really was.
really?
But,
Yeah.
they thought it was. And actually, when they did a scan, his lungs were full of something. And I remember the doctor, it was a pulmonologist, coming out and asking me questions like about his lungs, like had he had any been exposed to anything. I was like, not that I know of. And so she said she thought that he had histoplasmosis, um, which I didn't even know what that was, but it's a fungal infection. I think Texas
Oh.
has a different version of that, but I guess the histoplasmosis is what it is in Tennessee. Um, but you get it from the soil. I don't know. It's like, anyway, and it goes into your lungs. And they say that, or the doctor said that at least 50% of the population in Middle Tennessee has it, but they don't know that they have it because it's dormant and it doesn't affect most people. But because Greg was immunosuppressed from all the chemotherapy, it was showing up as active. So,
Oh, wow.
and
I
they
never
did
knew that.
determine that that's what it was and that it wasn't cancer. So, but he had to be followed by infectious disease for a while, and they would monitor him, and he was on some special medication. And then, so we moved back to Dallas in 2013 in the spring. And just before our move, he had a scan that showed something that wasn't there, like when he, during the histo, like he was done being treated for the histo. And so it wasn't active anymore, and something new showed up. And they were pretty sure that it was cancer, but they didn't know until they did this huge surgery, which was way worse than his original surgery, in order to biopsy this little spot that they saw. But it was between his like jugular, and I mean, it was like in a very, you don't want to stick a needle in that area. So they had to deflate his lungs and go up. And, I mean, it was craziness. But
Wow.
it did show that it was, colon cancer that had spread. So
And
th-
that was the fall of 2014?
that was in spring of 2013.
Oh,
So
okay.
and he was diagnosed January of 2012. So
Okay. All right.
we
That's right.
had just a few months of like them saying, okay, the cancer's gone, basically. And then it was like March, April of 2013, which we were in the process of moving here.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but we moved anyway. And so that's, he was already going to have to, find an oncologist here, but then it just kind of changed things, because then, the decision had to be made about what to do about this new. So he went, it was back on chemo. And at that point, they said, you will never be off chemo. You will do chemo for the rest of your life at
Yeah.
this point. So, and I think, Greg, he probably could have won the, I have a friend whose kids wanted to do this, put him in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most chemotherapy treatments.
Right. Because
And
he had like 70, didn't he?
he had like, it was over 75. So
Wow.
it might have been like 77, 78. Anyway,
Yeah.
but my friends' kids, they like found out that it was a record, but the Guinness Book of World Records was no longer like making that one of their categories. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so Greg, it was funny because they called and said, we want to know if it's okay with Greg if he's entered into the Guinness Book of World Records. So he did have lots and lots and lots of chemo. So,
That's okay. So
um,
he went, just kind of timeline wise. So that was, y'all were Dallas and,
yeah,
um,
2013, 14, 15. And he worked, full time and did the chemo. It started having more and more of an impact on him. The chemo did, where, I noticed by like early 2015, it was like, it was all he could do, really. Like when he got home from work, at one point I said, Greg, work gets the very best of you, and
yeah.
Jackson and I get like the tired part of you. And we had bought disability insurance in our 20s, believe it or not, because some life insurance
Wow.
person told us like you should get disability insurance, just Greg. But and I thought that was the craziest thing. I thought it was such a waste of money. And but he said, you're like whatever times likely of becoming disabled than you are of dying. And so so we had paid for this disability insurance for 30 years. Almost
Yeah.
30, like 20 something years. And So it was a good thing. And I said, you know what? We've got this disability insurance. Why don't we use it? And so at that point, and that's when we moved back to Nashville, is when he was just worn out. And
Yeah.
he wanted to move back because, well, number one, going on disability, you're like 60% of your income. And, living in Dallas is, property tax wise, is so much more expensive than living in Nashville. And so financially it just made more sense. And then also he just wanted Jackson and I to be near, because my family is in Nashville. So
Yeah.
he wanted us to be near family. So even though we have friends here in Dallas that are like family. So, and
How long were you guys? How long? What year did y'all get married? How long were y'all married?
we got married in 1994. And
I set that up for this right here, so we can look at this picture too. So.
Oh yeah. Yes, we got married in 1994 in Nashville, Scarrett Bennett Chapel. We met at Kanakuk. We were both counselors, and Greg went to Arkansas. He had played baseball, and then he was a cheerleader, and I cheered at Ole Miss. And
really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we met in the summer of 80. Oh gosh, was it 85 or 86? I'm trying to think. But yeah, we met in the summer of 86, I believe.
Oh.
And yeah, we were both counselors at Kanakuk. And then, but I dated his co-counselor. So we, saw each other. It was 4 years later, I guess, in Nashville. And then I guess then it was 4 years later we got married. Anyway, we got married in 94. And then Greg was it was in 2017 when he passed away. So, or
when you guys moved,
or when he moved to the front of the line, as he would.
Right. That's right. That's right. I got that. Where is that? So he got diagnosed in 2012, and then he passed away in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically the move to Nashville was that at that point, just kind of getting to I guess.
Yeah.
It was inevitable as far as what everybody was saying.
He lived a year and a half once we moved to Nashville. So, but it really was like, it was so unexpected. We both went to that hospital thinking he was coming home. So, I just think because he lived his life, you just didn't even think of him as having cancer. He suffered greatly. And I saw that, but most people, you just wouldn't know. You just wouldn't know. Towards the end, he started, some of the chemo, he lost his hair and all of that. So, and then he ended up, when we moved to Nashville, some of the chemo they did, he had some horrible stuff, like rashes on his face and stuff like that. So some pretty visible things like towards the end, but still he just, he had such a positive attitude and he was so at peace. And then, the last 9 months he wrote Out of the Blue.
I'm looking for that book. I've got it right here.
Yes. And he didn't intend to write the book. And people would go, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And they would read his blogs and go, Greg, you need to write a book. And he goes, well, if God tells me to write a book, I'll write one. But, he said, I don't think I'm supposed to write a book. So, and then, a woman who's an editor who actually, edited the book, she called and told Greg, we're going to write a book together. And
Yeah.
so at that point, he was like, okay, enough people have called and said this, so I'm going to write a book. So he
Yeah.
did. And he finished the book 2 days before he passed. He finished it in the ICU at Vanderbilt. So it was pretty remarkable. It had a very huge impact on the staff at Vanderbilt and the nurses. There was a huge rolling whiteboard in his room in the ICU, and it was completely, they let us break all the rules, and we would have 50 people in there sometimes. And so
Yeah.
there were all these people in there on the whiteboard working and, deciding on endorsements and book covers and all kinds of stuff. So Greg got to,
So
he
he was
got,
involved. He was involved in the whole process.
yes, he was involved in the whole process. And what's so
Wow.
interesting about the fact, is that, he, one of the palliative care doctors, like edited one of his chapters.
Oh
And
wow.
I know she was not a believer at all. And he gave her a chapter to edit, and she came back with a couple of things that she thought he should change. And so anyway, it was so he got doctors involved, and it made quite an impact on the people on that floor. And so we constantly see nurses coming from different areas kind of peeking into our room to see what was going on. So um
Wow, what an experience. And I'll tell you this right now, and for you guys that are listening, it's called Out of the Blue. It's by Greg Murtha. It's The Unexpected Adventure of Life Interrupted. And if you guys are watching, you can see it on the screen. You can get it anywhere. I totally, highly encourage you to get this book. Um, the book was just for me, Tracey, and I've heard, just stories of you even just sharing, how you passed the book out, you passed out all you had, and then you'd have to get more because nurses and doctors and I know even,
mhm.
um, but this book was, I think it's in my basket over by my chair in the living room, but this book was so instrumental for me. I ate it up, and it was because it was written just from a place of authenticity. And one of the things that I was going to say earlier is, and I'll get back to the book, but Greg had such an ability of just listening, and asking questions and just being in the dialogue with people, and it comes out in his book the way that he did that. And so I know that just in just the being a part of hearing the story, that I know um, how much of an impact that he had, because he just kept living. It was like, I mean, if I'm living, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to keep sharing.
Mm,
I'm just going to be a part of it. Whether he was and I tell you, it's inspired me. I
mm,
love to talk to people, but when I'm, shoot, sorry, when I go for these appointments and I'm sitting in that chair, I think about Greg.
mm,
And I think, just how the opportunity I have, whether it's my nurse or whether it's someone that comes in and sits down beside me. And so this past treatment, this guy named Ryan came in, and he has um, colon cancer.
mm,
And so I told him, about Greg and the book and everything. We kind of chatted, but we just started talking. Well, what was interesting, and I said this on a podcast earlier, was that we started talking, and I noticed his shirt. His shirt had the word "freak" across the front of it,
mm.
and so we just got to just share it. He's going to be on the podcast too. He's going to come
Oh,
on.
that's great. Yeah.
He's going to be on the Freakcast. But it was just that just having the conversation about life and faith and the Lord and all that stuff. And it's just like,
Mm,
when I read Greg's book, it not only encouraged me in, with the fact that he's writing it from the perspective of obviously going through what he went through, but also writing it from the perspective of how you approach your faith authentically, and and just how powerful it is to live outside the walls of a building,
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
be light wherever you are, and
Right.
that we are
Yeah.
not tied to an organization or anything like that. That we are committed to the Lord and committed to walking out our faith. And in my Uber today, I was talking to a lady, and the Great Commission, where Jesus said, "Go ye therefore," but it's better translated as you are going, as you're moving forward, share your story, share my story, share
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
faith, and
Yeah.
I
So
just know
powerful.
that was how he lived.
It's so powerful. I mean, in the book, he talks about, Anne Voskamp had this,
Yes,
the quote about the shortest distance between two hearts is brokenness, basically, and
yeah,
how people connect with you over your brokenness, not like your victories or your successes, um, because everyone is broken in some way, and everyone has something going on in their life. And so when you're bold enough to share your story and the brokenness in your life, people resonate with that it just cuts the ice, and
yeah,
you're communicating at a heart level,
yes,
um,
yes,
and you just bypass all the like small talk. And it's,
right,
and especially when it's something, life threatening, when you're facing, you know, eternity. I
hmm,
mean, we're all, as Greg says, we're all in a process of dying. Some of us just, he said, I just know I'm probably going to get there faster than most other people. Like he
yeah,
said, I know mine is pretty much not going to be, you know, 80 or 90 years,
yeah.
So, but,
Well, I know, and his even in you know you and I talked about this one time. I put a post up about caregivers, and just
mm,
from your perspective, just as
yeah,
his wife, and it's we talk about it. Not, I mean, his celebration of life service and all this stuff that it's
yeah,
so so. But at the end of the day, you're here, and
right.
um, and I know just from your perspective, because I think so often, and in the book, and I have to refresh my memory, and you may, but he talks about that, just being sensitive to the fact of what's going on around him. That yes, I
Mm,
have cancer, and yes, but there's other things happening around me.
right,
Investments I need to make in my son, and hear him well, and hear Tracy, and
right.
But I don't know. I think speaking to that, because so many people, we get, I don't want to say the word fixated, but we do get so focused, And I love what you said about the brokenness, but the brokenness is, yes, in the midst of what he was facing, but also what you were facing, and
Right,
you are
right.
too.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, I, as a caregiver, and I have definitely experienced caregiving for the last seven, or, well, I guess then the 5 years before that, but for the last 12
Mm,
years of my life, I have been a caregiver. And I mean, I think this is where, you know, and I say, like, the family, your extended family, which are like friends, or not just your family, blood family, but friends, where they come in. Um,
yeah,
and Greg I mean, he definitely, I mean, Jackson he wanted to continue to give Jackson, experiences. we had gone on a lot of mission trips. We had to, like after cancer, they wouldn't let us go to third world countries anymore because they just said it was not good with him being immunosuppressed. But
Yeah.
but I mean, he still, wanted to, live life with purpose and see and invest in other people. And he, oh my gosh, yes. And um, you know, I mean, he was a connector, and he was going to connect with people
Yeah.
anyway. But he also, um, wanted to make sure that Jackson, because when you think about it, Jackson lived, like a third of his life. His dad was sick. He lived with a sick dad, and so he wanted to invest in him, and then just know that me as a caregiver, that what fills my bucket, and make sure that
Yeah. That's what he said.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah, that
Yeah.
chapter, what fills
That's
your
what it
bucket.
was.
Yeah, and
Yep.
I helped him write that, and and that's why I say,
That's right.
friends come in because, people. I mean, Greg would reach out to them and say, "Hey, call Tracey and invite her to the beach." And,
Yeah.
and so they would be like, "Oh my gosh, I'd love to invite her to the beach," and just things like that. And because he knew what filled my bucket. And so he
Yeah.
would just make sure. And honestly, and that's what I said, is reach out to people. And I have done this a lot lately with Jackson. I know we're not at this point, but people would just go, "You know what? I'm an expert in insurance, and I'm coming over with my computer, and we're going to get this worked out." And so you just never know what people want to help. They really want to help, and you've probably experienced this too. It's
Yeah. I
hard
have.
on the receiving end because we had always been the ones ministering, and so to be ministered to is so hard. It is so hard, and it's so much better to be on the other side of it rather than on the receiving end. But I can tell
Yeah.
you that when you look at the world and you go, "Oh my gosh, there's so much hate in the world," like when you're living, when your life has been shattered, or you've had the unexpected, the interrupted, your life's been interrupted, as Greg would say, um, you see the goodness of people,
Yeah.
and see that the world is really good. And
I know. Oh, yeah.
yeah, so, and people really, I mean, it's just crazy how, and you think you're putting someone out, and they're like, "I could do this in my sleep. Like I do this all day, every day. Like it's so easy for me." And it's just like, I'm a physical therapist, and so I used to help people, that go, "Can you help me with some hip exercises or whatever, or work with somebody's child?" And they think, and I let's go, "It's just natural for me. I can just, this is nothing, it's not putting me out at all." And so, and that's just, I think, the body of Christ, just everybody performing their, you're living out your purpose, and you're, helping someone with what is like drinking water for you,
Yeah. Exactly. You're taking your skill set and what you do naturally,
yeah,
and what you've learned to do,
yeah,
and helping, in a
exactly,
way that, just taking that load off. It
yeah,
goes to a whole new level of bearing one of the burdens. It's like
yeah,
you're literally taking a burden that you're sitting there pulling your hair out, almost trying to figure it out, and they
yes,
walk in, and you just watch them do it, and you're like, oh my
ex-
gosh,
yeah,
it's like a deep breath. It's a deep breath for you, I would think,
right.
and for us to let
Oh
somebody
my
do it
gosh,
for us.
yes. I mean, I just had, I mean, it's just, you know, it's crazy, but
Yeah.
it is such a beautiful picture of of Jesus. It really is. It's Jesus in
Yeah.
the flesh, But
Yeah.
like you were alluding to the fact that, yeah, Greg was like, "Okay, I'm sick, but life goes on, and other people, like you can't just focus on
Yeah.
that the next chemo, or feeling good again or whatever, after 3 days of feeling poorly after a chemotherapy
Yeah,
session. So,
that's crazy.
yeah,
So he passed away in 2017,
yes,
right? And
yes.
and then
And
y'all his
and it was, I mean, we went to the hospital that night, never knew that he would not come back home
come home.
because
Yeah, just
he never stopped. I mean, he never like said, I'm dying, or
hmm
I feel like I'm dying. I mean, in fact, we had just been to Dallas and he had a meeting. He was like ramping up. He started leading with a limp, and he, had been writing the book and had a board and was having board meetings and, met with a friend, Matt Frazier, who was going to help him. Like he was going to start doing video blogs and, and I mean, literally it was the next week that he, was in, they put him in ICU. And, we had the choice of, they wanted to put him on a ventilator, and his mom had been put on a ventilator and she never came off the ventilator. And so he had always said, I don't want to go on a ventilator ever. And so that night, when we went to the emergency room, his oxygen saturation levels were so low. That was his only trip to the emergency room where it was by ambulance. And that was because we didn't have oxygen at home. And his oxygen was so low that they said, you can't bring him to the, he'll probably pass out. We have one of those oxygen concentrators, but it won't go in the car. We didn't have portable oxygen. So we had to go via ambulance. And so they said, you've got horrible pneumonia and you need to go on a ventilator. And we're going to, you know, and so we looked at each other, and I knew because he had always said, I don't want to go on a ventilator. So they said, yeah, it's just temporary until like, the infection calms down. And when they sent us to critical care, and somehow when we got there, I knew like this is more serious. Like if they put him on this ventilator, like what if he doesn't come off of it? What if I have to make the choice of him coming off? And so they were about to like, intubate him. And I said, wait, and I called his oncologist from his phone, and his oncologist traveled all the time and spoke. And so I just knew that I wouldn't get in touch with him. He answered his phone. It was his cell phone. And
wow.
he was in the hospital, and he said, hang on, I'm coming up. And he came up, and I had already told him, I said, what's the other option other than going on a ventilator? And so they had this, I think it's called a high flow. I don't know. My respiratory therapist niece could tell me the name of it, but
Yeah.
you can only get it in the hospital, and it's high powered oxygen. So I had decided for him to go on that, and the oncologist he agreed with me, but he basically said, "You've had a good run, Greg," which I thought was very insensitive of him. Like he was, Greg took the oxygen off, like, okay, this is it. And then I was like, no, 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 put the oxygen back on. But anyway, so those last 7 days, you talk about living with purpose. Those last 7 days in the hospital, it was unbelievable. He ministered to every nurse, every doctor, every single person that walked in that room. And there were 50 people in his room at all times. I mean, people drove across country to come see him. And, it was crazy. He had the whiteboard, he finished his book. And the nice thing is he had this high flow thing, and he could talk. So if he had been on a ventilator, he would not, have been able to speak. And, he got to converse with people. And I mean, it's amazing how many people traveled to come see him. And the last night of his life, I mean, we had praise and worship in his room. His brother and his friends came with guitars. And anyway, our pastor was there, and he said, "This is holy ground right here."
Yeah.
So, and it really was.
Well, I know, and I think too, and we've talked about this too, as with all that, as incredible as that is, I think like for you, just walking through that and just celebrating, with that experience, that's still, still, I mean, there were quiet times that you guys had there as well, that you could, um, just be together and just kind of walk. I don't know. Tracy, that's just a lot, but yet it's awesome,
Yeah.
and it's a great, great experience, but it's still nonetheless,
Yeah.
the hope that you guys had is
Mm.
what you held to, but,
Yeah.
but it's still,
And Greg had a
um,
motto. He would say, celebrate whatever you can celebrate. He said, the smallest thing, celebrate it. And he said, celebrate as big as you can,
yeah,
and celebrate like then, don't wait. Like
yeah,
celebrate in the moment as big as you can,
yeah,
and as often as you can. And we did do that a lot at our house, which then I started a Thankful Thursday after Greg passed away, because Greg would go, okay, he would just put something out. We were living here in Dallas, and he'd say, come to our house at 5 and just share what you're thankful for. We're celebrating. And I would throw
yeah.
together something, and we would have people show up every single time. And I mean, it was like church. I mean,
Yeah,
it was the best. And so
that's
I
awesome.
started Thankful Thursdays, which then during 2020 they kind of fizzled out. But I'm going to start them again. I've been saying the past
Good for
two.
you.
I'm going to
We were
start.
sitting around
Yeah. So
we were
anyway, if
we
you're
were
listening
sitting around
to start Thankful Thursday again here in
yeah.
Dallas.
If you're
Uh,
listening and you're in Dallas, I want to come. I live in
yes,
Dallas.
you
I can
come.
come to
It's every
Thankful Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah, and
Yeah,
you come and for 5 minutes or 5 hours, whatever you want to do. You eat or you don't eat. You come at 6:30 or you come at 8:30.
yeah.
So it's just very casual, and we just have soup and salad or something
Well,
simple.
that's amazing. And I think too, like just kind of a segue a little bit, but didn't the quote, life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in an
Right,
attractive and well preserved body,
right.
Um, the
Yeah.
original quote, you know, the original quote's a little more,
Yes.
um,
Yeah. That
it's
it was.
not,
Yeah, it was written by a guy who was, yeah, not, he definitely had a different mindset. That
yeah,
quote, and Greg, he changed it somewhat. Yeah, but
yeah.
it's
Well,
true.
I'll tell you this, it is
Yeah,
true, and I use that quote, um,
yeah.
I use that quote in my dad's uh, celebration of life service because
Oh,
my dad
yeah.
was 77, so he lived,
Yes.
and but he definitely just was. I mean,
He
he
lived life.
he was about to walk out the door to run,
Yeah,
2 or 3 miles when
he
he
was
had his stroke, and I
full
just think
speed.
that was such a powerful. I love that where Greg wrote that, as
Yeah,
far as and just shared
yeah.
that in his book.
And he did. He did go skidding
Yeah,
in sideways.
I
He,
want to too. I
yeah,
just want to go. You know what I'm saying? I think it's just as I read that, it was so pivotal. Y'all's story. I know. I mean, I have a buddy of mine. I think I told you earlier. He's like, "Well, how many views do we have?" I'm like, "I don't know. I really don't care. We just showed up. Did I just tell you, Trey? I'm excited for people to hear this. I hope people watch this.
yeah.
And I believe that they will, and everything. But just so you know, this means so much to me just
Mm,
to have this conversation with you and to be able to share and to hear your perspective. Because and I said this in the deal. As much as we are talking about the things that Greg went through and Greg experienced and Greg said and Greg
mm,
shared, which were awesome, I know that you were there every step of the way. and at every, all the appointments, as many times as you could be there. And,
Yeah.
You walked this, everything, every step with him. And as you said earlier, you're real, I'm going to let you bypass it because I think it's important. Not saying you are,
Yeah.
but, just the role of a caregiver and how much you've given. And, and maybe we could close with at the very end of before you sign off, maybe with the celebration of life service. It'd be a good way to close. But I just know that was huge for you too. And just
Yeah.
to walk that out
Oh,
beside him, and like you said.
Yeah. He
Go ahead. Sorry.
that service. He was all about, and we were here in Dallas talking to our pastor here in Dallas, and his wife, and another couple friend of ours. We had dinner, and he, he talked about the celebration because he had it all planned out. And little did we know, that like literally he just had 2 weeks to live. And I mean, we did not know this. And and our pastor said, Greg, don't wait to have the celebration. Do it now. Do it while you can be a part of it. And he was like, no, I've celebrated. This is I've been celebrating. So, but he he planned that celebration out, and our friend Reggie Ham helped make it happen, and then Derek Bell helped put it together because he had a lot that he wanted in that celebration. So it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work.
Yeah, it was. And everybody, if you get the book, you can read about it because it was he just talked about everything that it was. And I think I can't remember who it was that wrote the ending and talked about the whole deal, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, well Reggie Ham, Reggie Ham is the songwriter. He's a friend of ours, and he lives down the street from us. And Reggie says he hears, we like Greg. Greg was and he said Reggie. Anyway, he told Reggie, like I'm here, like we're so, I need your help to get this, band. And he chose it was like 17-member band, which they're a great band. And believe it or not, the lead singer from that, he's passed away from cancer just a few years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, great guy. Anyway, they played every Friday night. They were all session musicians, so they were like the best musicians in Nashville, and they still perform, but without their lead guy. But anyway, he's an incredible person as well.
But they were at the service though.
Yes, they were. They performed. I mean, 17 members, all 17 of them were up there. And then, Tim Timmons, I don't know if you know, Tim Timmons wrote the song Even If by Mercy Me. He wrote it with Bart. I'm not sure if I think it was Tim and Bart from Mercy Me wrote the song Even If. And Tim Timmons got up and he sang the song, and Even If, but he told his story, which he has a cancer story, which I didn't even know about. And he came from California, to share his story and sing the song at Greg's celebration. So anyway, it was very special time. And Greg would have been, I mean, people go, do you think I did what Greg, honored Greg's wishes? And I said, absolutely,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I encourage everybody, I'm saying again, to get this book Out of the Blue, because it really is such an encouragement. And so, I don't know. And then now, Tracey, you're here in Dallas, and I know, I guess, this whole section, because I'm just watching your life and being through social media and being connected. And then when I got diagnosed in July of 22, and I would post different things, and you just comments that you've been,
Yeah.
you just kind of connected and
Yeah.
sharing things, and especially when I put the caregiver post up, and you put such a neat thing because you know what that's about.
Right.
And then somewhere, I guess, in the fall and that 2022 in the winter, I can't remember the timeline, but you guys had this other tragedy with Jackson and
Mm.
your son, and again, just as I told you at the beginning, just
Mm.
whatever parts of the story or you share, but
Yeah.
I didn't even know. I
Right.
don't know, just kind of, I know it just I was just thinking, why,
Mm. Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
I say that too. I mean, I really do. I still say it sometimes. I mean, I'm in
totally
the
fine.
yeah, in the thick of it.
Yeah,
So, and I will say, like after Greg passed away and the book, was released, I did a lot of interviews like right away, about the book. But, I had not, I think about those interviews now and I think, oh my goodness, I was just at the very beginning. Sorry, got a phone call. My mom's phone
no,
is ringing.
no,
So,
that's fine.
oh, so I let me get rid of that. Um,
That's a great ringtone. That reminds me of growing up as a kid.
yeah, that's my mom's phone. So, but
You were talking about the interviews, and you were thinking
yeah.
about the
So
interviews,
the
and then
interviews, and I think about those old interviews, and I think about how I just didn't have a clue. I mean, I had not. It was just so new, and I was surrounded by so many people who were, you know, um, just supporting me. Like I didn't
yeah.
even realize how much they were supporting me, and then life just continued to. It got hard. I will have to say, not that it was easy before, but just a lot of loss. My um oh my goodness. Um I'm gonna have to turn her phone off. So anyway, she's gonna keep calling. Um it's my mom's friend is calling her. So anyway, uh um my sister-in-law got diagnosed with cancer, and then she passed away about a year and a half after Greg passed away. And
Yeah.
so I got to really minister to her, and then my brother moved in with me for a little while, and he kind of helped with Jackson. Jackson had a horrible time after Greg's you know um moving to heaven. I mean, Jackson just, and he wouldn't talk about it in counseling, but just held it all in. It was just years. I
How
mean,
old was he
he was
how old
15.
was he?
Yeah, he was
15 when Greg
15.
passed away.
Yeah, he was
And
15
I
when.
think that's the thing so often that we hear, and that's what I was alluding to a while ago. And I'm glad you're sharing this, and I want you to continue because we talk about all those things, but then and there's so many great things about that. But
Yeah,
you still have to walk that life. You guys have to live, and it is loss, and it's grief, and it's
yeah,
painful, and it's hard, and
yeah,
you've got a son, and you're having to navigate all this by yourself. But
yeah.
yeah, you had support and
Right.
all that. But at the end of the day, when
Uh,
it's 9:30
yeah,
at night, there's
it's
nobody
hard.
but you. It's you and Jackson. You know.
It is. It's hard. And, honestly, yes. I mean, I was like, Greg and Jackson had such a close relationship, and I just did not anticipate the fact that there really wouldn't be anyone who could like speak into his life really like his dad
Yeah.
did. And I mean, obviously there were men who took him to lunch and, like kept up with what was going on in his life. But, it's just not like your dad, And so
It's like he's there and he's there one day and he's gone.
yeah, and he was a tough cookie. He was hard. So I
Yeah.
mean, it was hard for people to do that. And so I was so grateful, when, men would invite him to dinner and, just let him talk about what was going on in his life. So I was so grateful because Jackson wasn't the easiest to really connect with.
Yeah.
And so my sister-in-law and then my brother kind of going through, you know, they never had any kids. And then I moved my parents in with me because my dad was increasingly, just having mobility issues and needing help. And so my mom needed help with him. And so I couldn't, and I realized at that point, like, I couldn't um, leave Jackson for extended periods of time to go help my parents. So I knew I had to get us all under the same roof. And so anyway, we ended up selling houses and combining and, moving into a house where we could all live together. And then, so I then was caregiving for my dad, and my dad passed away in 2021. And
Wow.
yeah, and then I had my best friend who had cancer. Um, she had inflammatory breast cancer, and but was unbelievable. Like she was in that, like, inflammatory breast cancer is like 2% of all breast cancers, but it's the deadliest of all. And it within 5 years, it has like I don't know, it's like 90% death rate. But she's like 6, 7 years into this and still going strong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then,
But still, it's the fact that she's getting diagnosed in the middle of all this. I mean,
oh, well,
from Greg to your sister-in-law to your
yeah,
dad,
well, she ended up
all this.
passing away. Anyway, that's a long story, but
Right.
she ended up, it took them 9 months. We thought she was a missing person, but as it turns out, she had just gone outside to walk, and then they think she got overheated and sat down under a tree, and they think her heart just stopped. But they didn't find her body. I don't know why they didn't find her body, but 9 months later. So I had a friend who was a missing person for 9 months and then found deceased. And they found her in the spring of 2022. And then my brother, um, whom we had gotten so close over the years after losing both of our spouses, he passed away suddenly from COVID in October of 2022, on October 4th, and it was a blood clot. So, and he was like fully vaxxed, all that stuff, but I mean, like, took the test that day and died that night. And that was just devastating. And that was October 4th of 2022. And then Jackson was involved in an accident on December 6th, where it was an accidental gunshot wound to the head with boys, and they were messing with a gun. It was totally accidental, but it was, a large bullet. And going to the hospital and hearing that, I mean, they had told me he would not survive. And, anyway, I can't even relive all that, but it's been a
No,
little
that's
bit over a
fine.
year. But
Yeah.
he was in ICU, and, um, thousands of people are praying for him around the world. And literally, he's alive. I mean, God has heard, their prayers, and definitely God has still got plans for Jackson. But we're in the thick of it. And we're here in Dallas to do therapy, basically rehab.
Yeah.
And so miracles every day. He's walking and talking. They told me he would not live. And God said, no, I have other plans. So,
Yeah.
and it's just been miracle upon miracle, but it's been a long road, and we still have a
No,
long
it's been.
way to
Yeah.
go. So,
I just following along first of all, just following along, just taking us in increments, but following along with your story with Jackson, I remember, and I told you this earlier. When did that happen? Was it in December or I forget?
It
Was
was
it?
December 6th of
Yeah,
2022.
yeah.
So,
I remember because I was. I don't know if I was in a Stillsville Harvest. Um, I was somewhere, somewhere in that journey,
yeah.
and I happened upon your post on Facebook, um, or something. I just started seeing. I think it started popping up. People were sharing it like crazy, obviously.
Yeah.
And Tracy, I told you this earlier, but I remember I just stopped and I just prayed and I was like,
Mm,
Lord, no, no, this is not, this isn't, this doesn't, no, this doesn't need to happen.
mm,
Because the
mm.
prognosis, as you said, I've seen those
Yeah.
initial prognoses and they weren't good.
Yeah.
But yet through the middle of that,
Yeah.
um, just the prayers and believing
Oh my
because
goodness. Yes.
I knew um, how much you had already experienced and didn't even know the extent of it based upon what you just shared now.
Yeah.
And then um, I'm just so thankful. I'm thankful, and
Yeah.
I know that, like I said, I know you still that having a gunshot wound,
Mm,
like that. I mean,
mm.
obviously, and what it's penetrated and just the recovery and everything, but
Yeah.
just just praying that I'm just thankful that you're
Right.
able that he's doing where he's at, which I for
Yeah.
y'all. And
Yeah. Well,
Tracy, how do you deal?
that's
Go ahead.
the life
Yeah.
interrupted right there.
Yeah.
And of course for Greg, he talks about the unexpected adventure. And there, and through that, the unexpected adventure is the leaning in and listening to the Holy Spirit and you know, being obedient. And that's the adventure is what the Holy Spirit does with all of that. And I would
Yeah.
say it's the people that I have met along the way through this. I mean, people, I say when Jackson gets to a point where, I can travel, I am traveling this world and I'm going to go meet some of these people who have been praying. So,
Listen, what a great adventure that would be. Yeah, just to go
yes.
and
And
document that and spend time
yes.
with these people.
And how and I've got invested in their lives as well. And they share, you know, like, they share their, the brokenness in their life. So, just like Greg, it's not all, I'm not the only one experiencing all this stuff. The same as you. I mean, everybody is experiencing some type of heartache, and
Yeah.
again, when you can connect, you encourage, it's an encouragement because
Yeah.
you bind together and you're not alone, and I mean, obviously God tells us we are not alone. He's with us at all times, but it certainly helps to have a physical presence of someone who can
Uh,
encourage you,
yeah.
doesn't it? I
Someone
mean,
that you can touch and feel and hug and
right.
that's
Yes.
there in your life. And
Yes. That
I
just,
mean, listen, I
yeah.
appreciate what you're saying too. I feel like, so many people, that they hear this and it's just like wham, 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 wham is what it feels like. It's like
Yeah.
that's a lot. And it is. It's a lot, Tracy. I mean, it's a
Oh, it is
lot.
a lot. It is.
And
It's a
so
lot.
yeah. But in the middle of all that, I mean, um,
I mean,
and I always want.
and
Go ahead.
people go, "Oh, your faith is so strong, or you're so strong," and I go, "I don't have a choice. It's not me. And if I
Wow.
to handle this but on my own, I would be in insane asylum. I would be
Yeah.
definitely in a mental ward.
Yeah.
It is like my faith is the only thing that gets me through from day to day, and
Yeah.
and God, he stands true to his promises. He does not leave us, and he does give us what we need to get through, and he has, and I know he will continue to. And 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 it's just focusing, I mean, he doesn't promise us everything's going to be, in a neat bow and all, everything's going to be great, but he does promise us that he won't leave us and that he'll be with us through it all. And
Yeah.
and it's true. And he does, give, the peace and the joy. It comes from him, and we can continue to have joy even when we're going through hard times, but it takes a lot of faith, a lot of trust, and a lot of and it honestly takes a lot of um it takes a community of people to just kind of uphold you as well. Your
Right.
um, Aaron and her. I said sometimes I feel like Moses, and I've got, Aaron and her, all these people are holding my arms up, and, they're getting me through. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm grateful.
Well, like you said earlier, yeah, definitely praying for you. And it's like you said earlier. I think I want to ask you this question, like through all this, because I mean, literally, you said, for the last 12 years, I guess since 2012, we're looking at 2024. I mean,
Yeah.
with Greg's journey that he went through,
Hmm.
and all that, and so many neat things and everything,
Yeah.
and then your family situations and the death and the loss, and your parents moving in with you, and
Yeah.
now the tragedy with Jackson and all this kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah.
just caring for yourself, but at the same time, so many people are listening to this and they hear your story. I appreciate what you said about that it's faith. It's you know, you know, because
Really.
it's easy to, and there are probably some mornings where you're just like, I don't
Oh,
want my head to leave this pillow. I don't
oh,
want. I don't care if my feet hit the ground today.
yeah. I mean, yes, it can be, definitely overwhelming. I mean, I was leaving, him as I was talking to you before this. So I got home just in time to like eat a little bit and, you know, and then talk to you. But, which I'm so grateful, and it's relaxing and it's energizing. So
I know, yeah.
yeah,
Well, I always get done, and I'm just like I'm wired, because
yeah,
I just think there's nothing greater, and I want to pray, too for you. Just and I've loved watching. And I put a picture up a while ago of you, and
oh,
I didn't put stuff, but you and your friends, and just see, like you said earlier, you see these people that come and
mhm.
help you, and in
Oh,
your stead, and your mom, and
I mean, it
um,
is, it really is. Uh, it is such a beautiful picture of, I mean, it's, just so many people, like people I don't know from other parts of the world. I get,
yeah,
you know, messages from Ukraine. I mean, it's crazy, of
yeah,
people who are praying, and, you know, I've never met these people. And anyway, and I'm praying for them. And so
yeah.
it's a blessing for me to pray for them as they pray for us. So
Right. Well,
yeah.
that's what community is all about, and it's about
Oh,
being connected, and
absolutely.
hopefully that people listen to this. And I can't wait to share this with people because, um, whatever somebody's facing, and it's all relative, right? I mean, because whatever you're facing is what you're facing, and it's huge to you. It doesn't matter. I mean,
Right.
it's like I remember being a student pastor, and I'd be sitting there looking at a seventh grade kid talking to me about stuff, and in my mind I'm thinking, I really don't care about any of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like this is such a, but to them it
Yeah.
was massive. It was huge
Right.
because it was part of where they were. And
Right.
so
Yep.
tonight people are going through stuff, and I think the principle they can be encouraged and inspired. I think by the story that you have, and then realizing, hear you say that I can't do this. This is impossible for me to do this on my own.
Yeah.
The
I,
only way I'm able to do this is because of God's presence. And I think that's where the energy comes from. It's like
yeah.
you think about Jesus's life, and he just went and went and went, and people are like, well, you need to stop and eat, and he's like, no, I don't, because I'm what I'm feeding on and what I'm feasting on right now is the fact that I'm doing God's will. I'm doing His
Yeah.
purpose. And it's
Right.
just like you said, it's like we go through a long day and we can have moments like this where we just talk about, we share our story, we share the journey, we share our feelings, we share all this stuff, and it's energizing. Now
Yeah.
an hour from now we'll probably both collapse. you know,
Right. Yeah.
but 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 nonetheless,
Yeah.
it's all about that, and
And
ultimately it is the fact. I go back to that verse in Revelation, that we overcame what we're facing because of
mhm,
what Jesus did for us and
right.
because we shared our story. That's where the energy comes from. That's
Yeah.
where the purpose comes from. It
That's
comes
right.
from the
That's
salvation that we have, and then people don't realize if they can just share
yeah.
that hope, and who doesn't have that hope?
That's
I
right.
pray that through this they'll get it.
And I know that they'll one day, like not too long from now, Jackson will be sharing his story. Um,
Oh,
they
yeah,
said he would never walk or talk. And I mean, first they said he would never live. He's living.
yeah,
Then they said he would be a vegetable and that he would eventually succumb to infection and die. He's still here. I mean, there no infection. I mean, he's not had
yeah.
needed any help breathing, for a year now, so yeah, I'd say we're definitely he's going to live,
How
and
is it? And
then
can I ask you? Go ahead.
oh, and then they said he's not going to be able to walk or talk, and he's walking, he's
Yeah,
talking. He doesn't talk a whole lot, but he can talk fine,
yeah.
and like
He can sing. I've seen him sing.
yeah, he sings, he loves music. So, yes. I mean, and we don't know. I mean, he doesn't have vision right now. He lost his right eye and his left eye he can't see out of for either from optic nerve damage or from the brain damage. We don't know which one, but I've had more people tell me that they've had dreams and visions and they said Jackson could see, you know,
Yeah,
so I don't know. I don't know if God will choose. I know He can heal his vision, whether
yeah.
that is in God's will or not. I don't know, but there are a lot of people asking Him for that, and honestly, I feel like He will have some sort of functional vision. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know what God has got in store for him, but anyway, he's
Well,
definitely
for the people,
He's definitely got a story to
this
tell.
is this is, and for you guys that are listening, I'm gonna put some pictures up of, of Tracy and Jackson. But this is um pretty recent, wasn't it? As far as like
Yeah, that
within
was
the last few years.
2019.
Yeah,
20, yeah, it was in 2019.
yeah.
Yeah, spring of
And
2019.
then here's you had sent some pictures of. I guess
And,
this is you and your mom at
yeah,
Christmas with Jackson. Is that
and that
right?
was this past Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
that was,
like a year ago, you're in the hospital and they're telling you that he's not going to make it. He's not going to walk. He's not. I mean,
yeah.
and I think I was going to ask you a while ago how, like people listening, how do you navigate those moments? And just with so much when you know, because like you said, it's like God's will, God's will. I hate to say it that way, but I try to word that the right way because
Yeah.
ultimately, we can say and think whatever, but
Right.
we have to hold on as long as we can. Like you said, I mean, never when I went to the hospital with Greg, you didn't think that was going to happen then. But this
Yeah.
is a year later, and here he is, and you had to withstand all of that, the negative, I don't, or not negative, but the
Yeah.
prognosis that they were giving you.
Right. Yeah. I
How do
know.
you do that? I'm asking. I mean, I'm not. I mean, for people just to know. I mean, how do you do that?
Well, yeah. I'll tell you how I did it. I don't know, I just I mean, I know I knew the Lord knew. I mean, I was like, he
Right.
is like, whether he chooses to take Jackson home. I mean, I'm like, Jackson's going to be much better off, if
Right.
the Lord
Yeah.
chooses to take him home, you know. But of course, that's not what I wanted, at all.
Yeah.
But I knew he would be fine either way. I'm
Yeah.
like, if the Lord takes him, he is definitely golden, and that's what Greg used to say. He goes, "Listen, I'm great either way."
Yeah.
And so I mean, I knew that that's ultimately that it was God. And I knew, I'm like, I don't think I don't know what you can know in heaven if you can know, like, I know you can't be sad. So, but I was like, I know that Greg has been praying for Jackson, it, asking, at the feet of Jesus, asking for prayers for Jackson and for me. So I know he's covered, and that
I
the
believe
Lord,
that. I believe that 100%. I mean, why
yeah,
would that verse say we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses?
right,
There. I mean, if we're surrounded by them,
yeah,
then to encourage us, then definitely,
right,
people know how to, people. I've heard anyway. Don't get me started.
yeah,
People don't, people don't know. I mean, I think we
yeah,
have to go with what we really truly believe in our hearts, and I
right,
believe the same thing. We need
yeah,
that. I mean, we need that encouragement, and
yeah,
um, I think we're all scared of being. I think people that are people that are in Baptist churches and Christians, they're scared of the, well, we don't pray to the saints, blah blah blah, whatever. But I believe that definitely is true. You know, so
yeah. And um one of the things, like, they had continually told me, you need to turn the ventilator off and let him go, and and
mm,
even
mm,
said, like, you have 2 days to make this decision. And as I was praying with a friend in Australia, like, over Zoom. My pastor in Franklin, Tennessee, we're all praying. And, one thing Darren said, my pastor, Darren Tyler, he said, God is not a God of confusion, like, he's a God of order. And when, this is all confusing, and so that's not from God. And that's something that I would always remember. And that if I felt pressured and felt, is I'm like, that's not God. God does not pressure. He's not a God of confusion. He is a God of order and a God of certainty. And so I just rest in that and just pray, and
mm,
and
yeah,
God gives you peace. He'll give you a peace.
yeah, I
So
agree. Well, listen, I am so thankful. I could talk to you all night. Um, I just, I just appreciate you coming on here and doing this, and
well,
we
I'm
are
encouraged
definitely
by
a
your
well,
story
and two guys that thank you.
and what you're
But
doing. Yeah.
well, Tracy, yeah, like I said earlier, I just hopefully, and I like some of the people that I'd love to have them share
I,
their stories on here as
oh yeah.
well, and
I know lots of people with great
yeah,
stories.
we'll send them. Yeah, I would love, and like I said, the purpose is for this very reason: somebody to be able to hear the story that you shared tonight, and just find themselves encouraged or challenged or whatever the case may be,
Mm-hmm.
convicted. I don't know, but I just think it matters, and I
Mm-hmm.
just want you to know again, I thank you for just walking it vulnerably and authentically, and it's been following you on Facebook and just the prayer requests and the things that you line out for us to pray over, and just how consistent, and just a mama that
Mm-hmm.
loves her boy, and
That's
is
true.
fighting,
That's the
and
truth.
believing, and so we're fighting
Yeah.
and believing with you too. Also, if people wanted to help you guys, because I know, like you said, I mean, you haven't asked for this, but there is a GoFundMe. Um, there's a GoFundMe, and I put the link in the comments, and I'm not sure you can click it, but it's Jackson and Tracey Murtha's Medical Fund. So if you search it on GoFundMe, you can find it there. I just
Mm,
encourage you guys, if you can, support them and help them.
mm.
Hopefully it'd be a blessing. I know for sure.
Yes,
Yep.
thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. And anything I'd like, I don't want to cut you off, but
Oh no,
yeah,
no,
I have been so
no,
blessed by it, and
yeah,
thank
no,
you for
just
coming on.
yeah. Like if
I
you,
just keep, go
this is
ahead.
on Facebook, but anyway, yeah, you can leave me a message, and I, I,
Yeah.
I would love to pray for you and anybody who reaches out. I'd be honored to pray with you. So
Well, you can follow Tracey. Are you on Instagram too, or you do most of your stuff on Facebook,
I
don't you?
do most of it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I know I should do Instagram, but I'm
Well,
like it's
yeah,
just yeah, the
it's a lot.
Facebook is like
Yeah.
automatic for me.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, you
old.
wouldn't mind. I mean, people can look you up and follow you on Facebook. It's Tracey Tracey Caperton Murtha
Yeah.
Murtha.
Yeah, and I
And
think on
so,
Instagram I'm Murtha Tracy. So it's just
okay,
backwards on
yeah.
Instagram. But
Well, I tagged you in the deal I put up about this too. So hopefully people can find you
yeah, and I do
and
have a
follow your story.
Caring Bridge. I share the same thing, Caring Bridge and
Yeah.
Facebook.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, we love you. Thank you so much
Oh,
again
thank
for
you. Thank
this,
you,
and
Stephen.
you and Greg and Jackson. Y'all's story has been blessing me for many years, and
Oh, thank
um,
you.
and I'm glad that we got to share it with
Mm,
everybody on here. And thank you for being willing to do
yeah.
it.
Thank you for yes hosting, and I want to um
You bet.
see your family while
I
I'm
do too.
here.
Yeah, we need to get. I was telling
Yeah,
you, we need to make that happen, especially for
yeah,
Dallas. We need to get together, get
yeah,
Donna, and get together
yeah.
with you guys.
Yes, that'd be
So
great.
something like that happen. All right. Well,
I'm
thanks
praying for your
again.
health. All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. All right.
Bye bye. All right, guys. Man, that was awesome. So thankful that Tracey came back to do that with us. So coming up too, we got some other good ones coming up. The guy from my treatment, Ryan, we'll be talking to him. He's going to be on here coming up in a few days. And um, anyway, I got some other things on up, but I'll tell you about it. But hopefully, man, listen, go and find, if you haven't found it, go to find Tracey's GoFundMe. It's Jackson and Tracey Murtha's Medical Fund, and you can do that. And I'm telling you, get that book. I mean, it is a great book, Out of the Blue. And I think if you're listening tonight, we all face something, and we're all going through something. And you hear a story like Tracey, who lost a husband, and the tragedy with her son and her family and friends and everything. Just during that period of time, loss. And we go through seasons, but through it all, I love what she said was, her faith is what that moved her through it and making the choice to believe. So I really hope that you're able to choose to believe as well, because I do believe it makes a difference. And I hope that you're encouraged to know that just put your feet on the floor and keep moving forward. It makes a big difference. Thanks for joining in to the Freakcast. Share this with people, if you will. I want people to be able to hear. This is episode 11, and my goal is to have 100 episodes in 2024. So hopefully that's where we'll be and where we'll land. And so, and the goal again is just to let people have a chance to share their stories and hopefully encourage some people along the way and let them hear the testimony that we have and that um, can make a difference in our lives. So take you out tonight again with the way we bring you in, man. If I'm gonna play this song, so I want you to make sure that you hear it, and we'll take you out with Stay True. So hey, we'll be back on here in a few days. I'll try to give you a heads up. This will be up on Spotify and iTunes later tonight, so make sure you share that there and follow us as well, and follow our YouTube channel. It's Fight Like a Freak. So go find us and follow that as well. All right. Love you guys. Y'all have a great